Ayer Board of Health meeting of September 11th to order. It just occurred to me that it is September the 11th, so.
It is September the 11th.
22 years ago. So there's been a number of things that have happened since Friday.
Unknown caller.
We may have public input at this moment, so.
Okay.
Hi, this is Steve Slarsky from the Ayer Board of Health.
Hey Steve, this is Colby O'Brien.
Colby, thank you for joining us, and we're going to include you under public input. We just opened the meeting.
Great.
And I'm with the other members of the Board of Health. The fire chief is with me, Bridget from the Neshoba Board of Health, and I don't know, Pam, you can introduce yourself if you'd like.
Hi, I'm Pam Papineau, Ayer Board of Health.
Trish Peters, member, Ayer Board of Health.
Bridget.
Bridget Braley, Neshoba Board of Health. Oh, sorry.
Samantha Benoit, Administrative Coordinator for the Board of Health.
So Colby volunteered to call in under public input. We found out Friday that the Neshoba Valley Suites is going to be used under the emergency declaration by the state as a shelter for, Bridget, help me with this, a shelter for refugees,
And possibly pregnant women.
and
That was.
this is slated to happen as of this Saturday. And I believe there's between 130 and 150 people that are expected to be on premises and living there, as this is a shelter declared by the state. But Colby is from Massachusetts Opportunity Council, and Colby is coordinating this on behalf of the state. And Colby, if I get something wrong here, please chime in.
Yeah, I'll go back and introduce myself, and there's a couple things don't mean to correct you on, but I will make sure for the record it's correct, so we're on the same page. Whenever you're ready, I mean, if you have any questions, we can. I'm not sure how much of a crowd you guys have tonight.
Well, it's a public meeting, and it's being recorded, so it will be broadcast as well.
Okay.
We are including you under public input.
I'm loud enough?
Oh, I think so. Can
Okay.
Mary,
everyone
can you
hear?
hear that?
Okay. Why don't you, as if we didn't know any more than what we've already talked about, kind of help us understand what's going on?
Yeah, so my name is Colby O'Brien. I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Integration at Make an Opportunity Count, or formerly Massachusetts Opportunity Council. We rebranded a few years ago, and now we're Making Opportunity Count. Yes, as you mentioned, our agency has been selected to be the provider and work with the Commonwealth to open up an EA shelter at Neshoba Valley Inn and Suites, effective for Monday, the 18th. And so it'll be next Monday we will move in. The supports and services we offer through the shelter program allow our families and clients to have a humane and dignified treatment and maintain the highest integrity of the property, which will be Neshoba Valley Inn and Suites. And we also, we strive to meet the health and safety goals of all the guests, our staff, as well as the community. So, this is something that we do at Concord right now. We partner with the city of Concord when we do anything, and they've been a great support to us. And so, yes, we are the contract EA shelter provider that was effective. We're still waiting for a contract. Usually we don't get into these discussions until we have a contract, but I understand there is kind of a rush to get this going as EHLC expands in the region. And so really it's just, creating these partnerships and conversations, transparency is my goal. And I'm glad to be, available to tonight to answer any questions or walk through anything. 100% transparent. I want to make this work. The shelter is not open just for migrants, but as Massachusetts is a right to shelter state, anyone in the state, any family that becomes homeless can be placed in the hotel. We do not place families. The state places the families. We have no choice. They will send us a referral transfer, and we will get that, and we will place the family up to, I think, Steve, you were right on the dot, 130 people, 150 people could fit at the Neshoba Valley Inn. So it is quite large. We have 90 units right now that we operate in Concord at the Old Best Western. So half that size, about 280 people at that facility. So we're used to this. We are the model for the state. The state often comes into our shelter and showcases it to other providers so they can see what we're doing and best practices. And so we are very proficient in doing this, and we of course like to partner with the cities and towns.
I'm sure we all have questions, and I'll start if that's okay with you. Okay. So as the licensing authority for the property, the Neshoba Valley Inn and Suites, is that license being waived by the state under the emergency declaration being used as a shelter? Or is it still a licensed hotel motel? How does that whole piece work? Because the shelter doesn't fall under what we licensed. And I understand that under the declaration, we may not have standing in that. But is there still a hotel motel license that would be valid during the period of the shelter?
Well, in the sense that up to your stay law, we will honor, it needs to be moved to a long-term stay to allow our residents and our families to stay beyond what's typically in the scope of the current code and what's currently assessed for the property. The state will be reaching out to have a conversation on that aspect. I can't answer for when the communication will begin and end on that, but it will need to be moved unless you can waive it through any kind of motion or meeting. I understand that some of these families might be there longer than the allotted time that's currently allowed under the Ayer town law, the municipal law, so it will have to be waived. Unfortunately, the state is quite in a crisis to find units and get families placed, and so I don't see this problem going away anytime soon. We don't really have families that come in for a week and then leave. They kind of do stay longer.
Is that waiver, do you know, Colby, at the discretion of the town, or is that state mandated?
From my understanding, since we're in a state of emergency, I think the governor is quite pressured to move forward and make these and work with these cities and towns through EHLC to help towns support the process of moving the waiver and getting this at least a temporary stay. That's what we have at Concord right now. The city did have a law that you couldn't stay longer, that we couldn't be a long-term stay. I think it's 28 days maybe, Steve?
Or 29, something like
20
that.
Days, yeah. We just have to move that to be, invalid just for this site. You could do it on a site-by-site basis, I believe. And so that's just something that needs to be changed. People are going to be placed there, and they're going to be there longer than 29 days for sure. So the state can definitely partner with you. I can get those communications started. I can't, speak on behalf of them, but we can definitely start that process.
Is that something that town council from the town of Ayer should be involved with regarding a waiver of the state law or the town bylaw?
I'm not necessarily sure. I can certainly reach out to the governmental affairs director for the state, and have him connect, with the town and see what happens from there.
Okay. And I guess one of my other questions is, and this is Board of Health as well as public safety, is there going to be some type of register of who's in what room and how many people are in those locations? And
absolutely.
Who is going to provide that to the town of Ayer in terms of occupancy?
So we keep a roster of all of our families. They're all tracked through a system that MEMA actually created for us. And so we have a roster of who's on site. Every night there's a curfew. We go door to door. We make sure that the family is in the rooms by 10 o'clock during the week, and then 11 on the weekends. So because if they are not, they could abandon shelter. And after 48 hours, they abandon their placement at the hotel, and another family would take their place. We only are supporting families at the shelter, no individuals, unless it's a pregnant mother. So we are family focused. The roster is not shared publicly because these are families that some might be fleeing domestic violence situations, some might be fleeing other circumstances. And so all that information is kept on our end.
So when you say shared, Colby, is it shared amongst the agencies of the town, or is that confidential to Montechusett?
Yeah, it's confidential to our operations.
Okay.
We can certainly let you know, like, hey, we have 150 people living here. That's certainly okay knowledge to share, but names and information where people are coming from and family demographics will be kept with our program.
Okay. Questions?
A quick question, who oversees, and is Mr. Patel responsible for these curfews and checking on room by room at night, or is someone from the agency going to oversee that piece of it?
Yeah, we have a 24/7 presence on the property once
On the
fully
property?
staffed. Yep. So we handle all the programmatic pieces. Mr. Patel has really he leases the whole property to us. He has no oversight of the programmatic functions. And so he's our landlord in the space, and we just take the rooms and use them for the use.
Can you help us understand how long the lease is for, Colby?
It's through this fiscal year. It's through next fiscal year, so July.
So through July. So we wouldn't expect it to operate as a transient location through that period of time. Is that correct?
Well, I can't speak on what the state's going to want to do. They could renew that lease. We can renew that lease on an annual basis, depending on what.
No, I'm saying, but through the fiscal year, it will not be operated as a hotel motel.
Oh, correct. It will not be correct. It will not be operated as a hotel motel.
So it will not be available for transient guests during the period of the lease.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it's not going to be operating as a hotel motel.
It's a long, yeah, okay.
And
We are leasing all 49 or 8 rooms.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay. And I just want to make it clear for the record, this does not require approval of the Ayer Board of Health because of the emergency declaration. This is just information to help us understand what the process is going to be. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not aware of any approval necessarily that, we need on your behalf unless there's an inspection or, something outside of what I understand.
Sure.
It's certainly in a partnership. I'm not looking for like a motion or approval tonight.
Yeah.
We have an executed lease with the landlord and our agency. I have food lined up to start on the 18th that will be provided by a caterer off-site with a catering license. 3 meals a day will be provided to the families. We work with the schools to place kids. All this is going to go in motion quite quickly.
Can
I'm
you
not sure.
share with us who the caterer is?
It's a Spanish American Center
Out of,
In Fitchburg?
out of Leominster.
okay. Are you familiar with him, Bridget?
Never heard of it.
Okay. Can you give us any contact information on that as they're bringing food into the town?
Yeah, I'll provide you the caterer's permit and all the information relevant to
Great.
what we'll be doing. Yep.
Great.
On another, Board of Health curiosity, you say that there's going to be a roster kept of, you're going to know who is in what room, how many, and you said families, small children, pregnant women, medical care, vaccinations, hospital stays, doctor care. Just wondering about all that, how that's going to come into play in the town.
Yeah, so we will have an on-site case management team. And so our case management team will assess families, basically do an intake, everything from healthcare to income to schooling to where they live. All the demographic information will be covered. We identify families, we make sure that if they have a healthcare provider, we get that either relocated to a close area or we make sure that they get signed up for healthcare. I can tell you DPH is heavily involved in our Concord operation for supporting us to get people vaccinated and tested. They do blood work for some of our families, make sure lead and all the other things are covered for our children, and also getting kids vaccinated to get into school and physicals. We work very closely with Emerson Hospital. We have bi-weekly calls with them to make sure that we have a seamless transition of provider and care. I do have a healthcare provider or healthcare coordinator at our Concord location. We have some best practices on how we handle taking care of our folks with their medical needs. So all of that kind of falls into place underneath once we get the operation running.
Okay, so Neshoba Valley Medical Center is not involved in any of that? You're going through Emerson?
No, I was using Concord as the example. Neshoba Valley, we partnered closely with them when we had a EA shelter on Devon's base, which ran from like November of last year up till March 14th. So we operated a 120 bed facility there. Not sure if you remember that. It was quite recent before we transitioned over to Concord. But we partnered with them on supporting the healthcare pieces of our families on site.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, Trish?
I'm just curious, in the other towns, this has all just happened, I'm thinking, because of, it's in the news, it's in New York, it's in the bigger cities, and Massachusetts now with the placement. It's only been within the last 2 weeks, I think, that this has happened, or am I wrong? That they've been placing people here?
This has really exploded in the last probably 3 or 4 months since, we have an increase of numbers. I think we have over 6,000 families right now in the system, which is at a record high. It wasn't designed for this. So we're using hotels now as the model to house people. And so this has kind of been the evolving model. The National Guard has actually just been activated. They will be on the 13th going to sites that do not have providers. And so instead of, in lieu of, our agency being the provider on site, the National Guard would be the provider on site and support these processes. And so that's kind of how overwhelmed they are. They're now, pulling the National Guard to start handling some of the operations.
Will they be involved in the location in Ayer?
No, only sites that do not have providers.
Okay.
Okay, that's
So,
them.
no.
Okay.
That didn't answer your question.
So once the families arrive in Ayer, is there a time frame that you can reference with the other towns that have had families placed, how the families are evaluated health-wise, as far as vaccination, or if there's anybody that's, really ill? Is there a time frame that they are checked out, not vetted, that's not the word I mean, but, and are some of the kids that are in the families already into the school systems?
Yeah, so we have a couple questions there. The vet, I know the vet used the word vetting.
Yeah.
The assessment of families happens immediately when they arrive. We sit down and we do a full intensive case workup on them. That all the information is entered into a state system that our case managers and support staff have access to. And they take that information, it's all computerized. If they have documentation, they have providers, we note that, we make sure that whatever their next stop is, we're dealing with a lot of pregnant women as well. It's that prenatal care. Where's their provider at? How do we get them there? We use Uber. We actually depend on Uber and Lyft a lot to make sure they're making their appointments. That's all set up through the team. The school piece, and sorry, you can ask more about that question too if I don't answer it all the way. The school piece, all the students are McKinney-Vento, covered by McKinney-Vento law. They can be transported back to their home district if they have a school of origin. If they do not have a school of origin, we will work with Ayer School District to get them placed and assessed and put into school at the home district.
Okay.
Pam?
Got it. So you said that Mock actually has a case worker or case management team on site. Is that on site at the Motor Inn?
They will be on site at Neshoba Valley. Yep, we'll have a full.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep using the old name.
No, it's
Old
okay.
names die hard in small towns. Okay, so they are actually on site. Is that a 24/7 thing? If there's some sort of an emergency, do they contact that person? Do they call 911?
So I'll give you an example. We have a 24/7 presence on the property.
Okay.
At any time, we have an on-call team. At the end of the day, we will have about 5 shelters in the North Central region with upward of 75 staff. So it's a quite large team.
Okay.
We have an on-call team. It rings all the way from the assistant manager to my number. So at the end of the day, someone's picking the phone up and getting, in touch with the staff to make sure there's coverage, emergencies are covered, anything comes up during the shift is handled appropriately. We have quite a lengthy SOP process for emergencies. Same with, all the rules and shelter rules. All the families abide by the uniform shelter law, which is set forth by the Commonwealth. We have our own program procedures. that, our residents have to follow. It includes no alcohol, no weapons, no drugs on site. Families can receive a non-compliance and lose their shelter rights if they violate numerous, could be anything from a simple assault to, drug use to domestic violence. Those things are not tolerated on any of our properties.
Okay. And I know certainly you can't give out specific health information about people, but do you know anything about general health of, I don't even know if you know the specific people that are slated to come here, but anything unusual that we should be aware of?
It's a lot of families, so we're dealing with kids.
Okay.
We're dealing with the typical kids, we're in flu season.
Childhood,
we're dealing with moms that, might have never had prenatal care on their journey. You're dealing with low income populations that don't necessarily have access to medical or dental or vision. So a lot of our work is really partnering with the community health organizations, the local health organizations, to help bring them in and educate our families. We have a robust program that our agency oversees. They're there on site, making sure that the families get signed up for WIC, making sure they get their benefits card, make sure they get any kind of benefit they're eligible for. Mass health, we process mass health applications.
Okay.
And we do it all on site through benefits coordination. It's really getting those families assessed and what their next step is, whether it's finding a job so they can then take the next step and find housing, or it's just getting their documentation, immigration figured out. So they can, apply for benefits. And so it's quite a range of it's all individualized. It's a really tough question to answer.
Yeah, I understand. What about languages? Do you have a whole variety of languages? Do you have any, anyone they're helping? Are you tied into the literacy volunteers or anything like that?
So we have a couple options. A lot of my staff are bilingual. They speak Spanish, they speak Haitian Creole, they speak French, they speak a variation of Haitian Creole.
Yeah.
So I would say 80% of my staff can communicate directly one-on-one with clients.
Okay.
We have a translation line that we can utilize as well through the state to do translation services. All of our materials are printed in Portuguese, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and English, which are the predominant languages. So the language piece, we are quite covered. I have a lot of staff that actually were immigrants themselves. They traveled up and they established themselves, and now they're working for us.
Okay, great.
All set, Pam?
Yep.
Colby,
Thank you.
couple things. Where locally are these people being transported from to get to Ayer?
That's a very good question. I would say majority of them are coming from the Boston area.
Are they in shelters in Boston now?
They're either in a very temporary location in Boston, or they're a new arrival. Or they could be a family in Springfield that was evicted and now they're being relocated.
Yeah.
It's really across the board. The immigrant refugee populations come out of Boston. Your state homelessness, state resident homelessness is coming straight from cities and towns.
So it's not all immigrants that are going to
Correct.
be here? Okay.
Correct.
And how are they actually getting here?
DHC, or sorry, I'd use their old acronym. EOHLC has a transportation contract with local providers, and so they will either be provided a taxi here or some other means.
Okay. Our interest is from the Board of Health perspective, and we can't speak for the schools and the other agencies in the town. There are a lot of questions that came up this morning, and I appreciate you helping us through those that are public health related. And I'm hoping we can count on you for information as we go forward, because I'm sure there's going to be numerous questions. Bridget Braley, though, Bridget is going to be more actively involved than we are individually. And Bridget, any thoughts that you have, questions that you have, concerns?
I think the main one is,
Colby, can you hear Bridget okay?
Yeah, I can hear her slightly. Yep.
so public health wise, obviously our nurses are involved with immunizations, just making sure that everyone has what they need as far as that goes. But, the general concern too is the size of these rooms, the length of stay, overcrowding situations. If you have 5 or 6 people in one room, how is that going to be dealt with? And of course,
great question. Go ahead.
Just as far as the housing code goes too, I don't want to throw you under the bus, Chief, but it's just means of egress. There's only one means of egress in these units. So again, that's a concern as well.
Yeah, so the hotel itself, regardless if it's a stay for a refugee or a homeless individual or family, it doesn't change since a guest could be in the room with one means of egress, nor not a guest or whoever's in the room. So obviously, I believe I asked for the most recent updated inspection information from Trishar, I believe passed a couple months ago in May. So he will also provide another inspection. The state will come in and inspect it, and they're quite strict, and they'll go through room by room. They'll inspect it, and it'll get signed off on as well. You had another piece about the housing and people staying. We like a king room would be 2 parents, and then we would provide a bassinet or a pack and play for the child, and so, or a smaller like bed. We asked the hotel owner to remove furniture from the rooms to make it a little bit more kid-friendly to say. So if anything could roll, tip over, all those things would be removed from the rooms, provides more space. It also provides us the opportunity to provide that furniture for them so they can have a safe space to sleep. And so we do this on a room-by-room basis, depending on what the room size is. There's some double rooms there, there's some larger and smaller rooms there. We work on that to get like a census almost for what we can fit.
Do you have a maximum family size for each room?
Depends on the room. So, like a king would be a single king, would be 3 people, up to 4, depending on if it's 2 children, 1 child. You got your efficiencies. They have 2 queens. You can fit, 2 children, and then mom and dad, and then possibly a pack and play or a bassinet. It's really a case-by-case basis.
Okay. And then if there are issues, I think in the past there was an issue or question of bed bugs at the facility. Are they going to have pest control?
Yep. They're going to expand on their current pest control contract. I've asked them to order a larger dumpster and have more frequent pickup as well, because there will be added trash capacity.
Food, yeah.
The pest control thing has been, it's always a concern. If there is bed bugs, we always leave a room open so we can decontaminate. I'm not sure the process with bed bugs, but to decontaminate it and get it set up for 24 hours and then move the family back in.
Okay. And then if we could just get a copy of the catering permit, and then I was involved slightly with the shelter on Devon's, and I know there were some people that called to complain about the issues there. If there are issues and their individuals want an inspection, would that be done by the state?
Can you clarify a little bit?
So if there's a guest there that is not happy with the room,
Yep.
or there's an issue, does the state do the inspection?
Yes, the state. So yes, the state will do its inspection if they have a grievance that's room related. I've had them show up at Concord. They'll just show up and do the room inspection, and they'll do a report. They'll take pictures. They'll report it back. We'll make any changes if they request.
Okay.
So if there's a complaint to the Ayer Board of Health that Bridget is involved with, should she get back to you, or should she advise the people to call the state?
Well, either or is an option, because I'm responsive on the ground. I have a site management team, and if there's a concern, they're going to meet one-on-one with the family, and we're going to talk through it. Sometimes it's just not a keen understanding of what the process is to bring about the change. If there's a room complaint and it's an easy fix, and the staff person can work with the family and make it doable, absolutely. If the family doesn't like the response from the staff or the management team, they certainly can have agreements with the state and go from there. That's their right. They have rights as a shelter participant, and so certainly they can go either way. I love handling things in-house because, again, the state is quite overwhelmed. If we can figure something out and it's a quick, easy fix, absolutely.
So Colby, just as a scenario, if Bridget got involved because of something that someone called the town on, and for mitigation, would she get back to the owners of the property, or would she get back to MOC?
Well, we're the landlord, so we would work, we're leasing the property from.
So it's
Mr.
back
Patel.
to you then?
So we would work with him to get any changes.
Flash flood. Flash flood.
Okay. Sorry about that, Colby. It was a,
I got it too.
Yeah, everybody got
Threw me off.
it. Okay. Is that me?
Colby, we're also joined by the owners of the Ayer Motor, in Neshoba Valley Suites. They were kind enough to come in tonight as well under public input. So I'm sure if we have any questions, we can ask them as well.
Absolutely, they've been excellent to work with. And I mean, me and Shashar had many conversations on our plans to make sure that things are taken care of before we move in. And they've been excellent to work with, very flexible. I think we've already have a great relationship there. The landlord-tenant-like relationship has really been quite great overall in terms of getting started up. And so that's kind of the same thing we're going to carry out throughout the terms of our contract. So if there's anything that comes up from a family, we will work together to make it right.
Okay. When you say partnership with the community, is that a contractual partnership, or is this more of a consensual partnership?
What do you mean with the community?
Well, you said you partnered with Concord and you partner with the community. When you say partner, is that just a flexible term for working with the community, or is there actually some type of documentation of how this whole thing is working?
No, we don't have any formal contracts with any of our community partners in Concord at all. They're all a commitment to supporting the residents and the families on site. Whether it's, Concord had the kids put in public camp in school, and so for the school system in the summer. So that was a great partnership. We have Horizons for homeless children on site that provide play groups, play space for children. Everything from vaccination clinics to physicals to immigration services. There's multiple different partnerships at the table that make this a successful operation, and I would anticipate doing the same thing at any site we go to. It doesn't have to be a formal contract. It's just two parties working together to really help these residents move forward.
So how did that work in the other towns with, like Bridget represents the Neshoba Boards of Health, several towns. How did it work in the other towns with, you said the kids were in the school systems. How did it work as far as vaccinations and getting them ready to go? Did you work with the boards of health in any of the other towns, like vaccination clinics, or did it go through the Emerson Health?
It went through the school district, who handled Dr. Lori Hunter, the superintendent of schools for Concord, has been a magnificent partner. I recognized many times by the governor's office for the work that she's done. For talking about collaborations, she really has supported this process of getting these kids either physicals, helping their families find jobs, helping kids get enrolled in schools. We have a community coordinator from the school district that is on site almost every day at the shelter in Concord that helps enroll students, work with the families, any concerns that the school has, and is a communicator between us and the school. That's been a partnership that's been on the ground since day one. That's something that we would love to do in Ayer as well. I know you can't speak on behalf of the schools, but that's kind of the partnerships that we launch with the communities. And what comes to that, of course, is the healthcare piece. These kids are being vaccinated, they're being put in schools, they're getting physicals. I can't speak on what partnerships we're going to immediately create in Ayer, but it's certainly, we're really receptive to anything to support these families.
This is Bridget. I guess my concern is that it seems like there was no notice given to the town at all, which, how do we provide the best services we can if we really don't know anything? And I mean, we found out by accident. And I guess that's my concern is,
Yep. We are not, we're not in a position to communicate with the towns and cities until we have a contract signed from the state. The state has not allowed us to move forward with communications. It's part of the protocol that they handle the communications up until the part where we move in. And so since the state has been inundated with starting these shelters up, the communication piece has suffered, unfortunately. And so it's not best practice, and I totally agree and understand. But we're in a place now, we have contracts signed. We have to move forward to support these families that are coming from wherever they're coming, whether they're Massachusetts residents or refugees, and to pick up the pieces here and move forward. You know, I don't want to look backwards. I do want to look forwards. And part of it is just understanding, look, this isn't perfect. It's going to happen that that's perfect communication style, and I agree. But moving forward, it'll be transparent, and you have my contact, and I'll pick the phone up, and we'll work through things.
Anything else, Bridget? Okay,
No.
Chief, anything? Okay.
So I just, to clarify the the vaccination piece, like I know that the kids in the school systems now in the state have to have vaccinations for, you know, a lot of different things before they start school. Is the town, I mean, the Neshoba Boards of Health going to be responsible for vaccinating, for
I don't think he knows.
updating, or are these?
I guess that was my concern.
Yeah,
is
are the
that-
students going to be vaccinated and checked out by the Emerson connection that you have?
We can't
No, I
have
mean,
staff
certainly, like-
available if we don't know.
Right.
So, for example, Department of Public Health came in 2-3 weeks ago and did an assessment on every single individual living in the Concord shelter, put it onto a database, you know, recognized and identified what vaccines needed to be completed, what ones did not, and they actually came in with a team of 5 people and spent a whole day vaccinating residents and children. It doesn't really matter. It just was a vaccination clinic. We can continue to do those with the state. We can partner with Neshoba Health. We can partner with the boards of health. You know, anything that's, you know, any partner or agency that wants to participate in helping these families, we're receptive to, and we will work with.
Okay, that's what I was just wondering about. And I wasn't sure how many, I mean, what the population looked like as far as needing vaccinations or how many kids and all that. So I just wanted to be, I was just curious about that piece.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Colby, we won't tie you up any longer. Thank you for calling in. I think we're much more informed now than we were an hour ago.
Well, I hope I could be of help. I hope I answered some of your questions. You know, I know I answered a lot of questions. You know, it's part of my job. You know, this is what I do. And so I really want to be as helpful as I can within the respects of, you know, not stepping on the state's toes, because they also have they have a voice in this too. And if there's anything that I can't answer, I will certainly shoot over to them so they can help communicate that as well.
Okay. Like I said, this is really just Board of Health, and this is public health issues that we needed to better understand, and I think we do. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions as we go forward, and I'm sure that other agencies in the town have as many questions as we do. But thank you for at short notice of volunteering to call in. I think we all
No
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye-bye.
So that's a new step for the Board of Health. And I don't want to keep you people. This afternoon, I went to the Neshoba Inn and Suites, and Tushar called JJ, and I spoke with him, and I said, you know, we're in the dark on this, and
Yeah.
I think there's still questions that we have, but they were more than willing to, at short notice, come in under public participation. Is there anything you want to add that we are unaware of?
This is as new for us as new for you.
Yeah.
And because it was the state and the state of kind of emergency.
Yep.
The state is overwhelmed with these issues. We were approached by this organization, and we wanted to do, being a good corporate citizen, best we can do without stirring any issues for the town, for our community. And having discussed further, before even having discussed further, we discussed this matter like Concord. The Best Western in Concord, it is for 3-4 months now. A lot of other hotels in the area has been working with them for 3-4 months. And everything has been going very smoothly.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, what we were thinking is if this is going to help, if it is going to create a win-win situation for everyone, then it's a good idea. And that's why when we even asked them, like, do we need to do anything on our part? Do we need to inform the town? So they said no, they have their own protocol, they will do it on their own.
Well, that part of it didn't work too
That
well.
did, that didn't happen.
They were a little late, but.
Found out totally by accident
Yeah.
that this was happening.
And even for us, as you are surprised, we don't know how this proceeds.
Yeah.
All we wanted to do is, we have good intentions of providing our property for any help to the state, as well as for us helping each other.
Well, I was glad to hear the explanation from Kobe that you guys are landlords, that's it. You're not responsible for any of the, if there's any problem, any issues. It sounds like it's your property, you're there for that. If there's any problems or questions,
Yeah.
you go to them.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about that.
Yeah,
That's putting a
yeah.
lot of burden on, if he hadn't clarified that, I would have thought you would be responsible for much more than what you're responsible for now.
But
Yeah.
as it relates to our
Yeah.
licensing authority as a hotel motel, we need to clarify what our role is going forward. Because my understanding is between now and June 30th,
Yep.
that will not be available for transients. You can't advertise for people to come in and stay there overnight. It is a state leased facility.
Right.
So the day-to-day travelers or whatever, that's because that's what we regulate. And you're not doing that. You lease the entire property to the state. So it's not going to be an overnight guest location, at least through the end of the fiscal year. Are we on the same page with that? or-
Yes.
Yeah?
100%.
Yeah,
We are
okay.
going to cover our sign, so
Oh,
people don't go away.
Well, this came up, we had an emergency call this morning, and it came up from the senior center that they looked for your location in terms of placing people on an emergency basis for short-term stays, and that's evidently not going to be available to them, to the town.
Right.
So they're going to have to look for other facilities for that.
Yeah.
We have honored it when, I don't know the person name, but they have sent a couple of guests over there for 1 night, 2 night. We have honored it whenever we can, but we are in a situation that we cannot honor it after the 16th of this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope that you would notify whoever's sending you referrals rather than they hearing it secondhand. I think that, if,
We should tell them, can you come on, pay them
No, but they haven't contacted us. They haven't contacted us.
every weekend.
Oh, guys.
but the air.
Like they just do
Well,
a call, like they don't send formal email.
No, but the air housing, I don't know how you want to communicate, but the air housing authority should know that your facility is not
we
going to
will
be
inform them.
available.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any contact detail for them that we can send an email?
Ken Martin is a
Is it
contact.
Ken Martin?
Why don't you get in touch with Samantha tomorrow, or Sam, maybe you can get in touch with them and give them contact information so that they can notify the housing authority and the elderly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be good.
No problem.
Okay.
Call me in the morning and I will get that for you, okay?
Okay. Like do I call on the town number?
Yeah, you call the
Okay.
town number.
This 8220 extension 145. I think I put that on the card that I gave you this
Oh, okay.
afternoon.
Is that yours?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, yeah, okay, I have it.
Thank you.
We good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very
We
much.
were in New Hampshire and we made a point.
Stuck in the rain.
And sorry for delay because we were planning on coming here exactly at 5:30.
No worries.
A lot of traffic on 495.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did not even get to change formal pants.
Don't worry.
No worries, thank you.
It's okay.
Yep,
Thank you for coming.
good luck.
And Chief, thank you for coming in. That was the longest public.
Yeah. Active public input tonight.
I just thought we should all hear the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, I got some answers.
So,
but,
any
yeah.
other public input? I don't hear any.
No.
Next item is board reorganization. And it being an event that should occur annually, the board should rotate through positions, I believe, and let everyone have the opportunity to. So anyhow, I would accept nominations for chairman. And in the absence of
Go
anyone making a
ahead.
nomination, I'll nominate Pam Papineau for chairman for the next, or through this election season.
Through the elections.
Well, through the next election, I guess.
Through the next election, like that.
I would second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Nominations are closed. All those in favor?
Do I vote on the nomination?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, aye.
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations.
Okay.
So,
The new chair.
I really don't want to be the secretary either.
It's like, I'm trying, but we have a great,
I know.
Yeah.
Sam, it's really
No.
good.
I'm fine with,
I'll nominate Trish Peters as secretary.
Oh, I'll second that.
Nominations, I move, are closed.
okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to do that now or for the next meeting?
Oh, let's do it for the next meeting.
Congratulations.
No reason to rush.
Old business, 17 Taft Street.
Yep.
Part of the mitigation, I think, has been taken care of. We're aware that she sent us pictures of the pond. But the 90 days is going to be coming up next month. And Julie had talked about doing the barn inspection. It seems to me that if we can coordinate with Julie and with Ms. Maxon for a date in October after the 90 days to do a follow-up. And I think that would be appropriate. Can you start that process, Sam?
I can.
Get Julie in terms of dates and her in terms of dates that.
Yep, I will contact Ruth and her lawyer, and I will contact Julie, and we will.
And I'm sure Bridget would love to be there as well.
Whatever you want.
What are the 90 days? When?
October.
90, end of October?
October 9th, I think, right around there.
Oh, okay,
That
it's
was
kind
the
of
90
early
days.
in October. Okay, all right.
Sandy Pond update, just that the water has been crystal clear and is still
Beautiful,
crystal
yeah.
clear. And I think that the drought of last summer played a big role
Yeah.
in the water stagnating.
Oh,
yeah.
Because this year the water has been crystal clear.
Yeah.
Tobacco violations.
Yeah,
We have an outstanding
we do.
fine that has not been paid.
Correct.
Still.
We have one outstanding fine for the vineyard. It's a $100 fine. They have been notified by tobacco control. I have reminded tobacco control a couple of times of, hey, we still haven't received this. I have heard nothing from them. Dead silence.
New owners there, right?
I've heard nothing from tobacco control.
Why don't we invite them into the next meeting to discuss, and if they pay the fine before that, then I would scratch it, but if they don't,
That's fair.
have them in. And
Has there been a change of ownership, like since,
No.
did the violation happen, then
Change
it
of ownership
changed?
probably occurred 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's been a
Oh,
while.
okay,
So the
okay.
change of ownership actually happened right at the end of last year, right around tobacco renewal time. Just because, like, the day I was prepping to send everything out to everyone, they came in, they're like, hey, we're supposed to do this, and they were on top of it. I was like, great, thank you.
Okay.
And then I have heard nothing, and I haven't heard from tobacco control either, so.
Okay.
But I will send them a certified letter and.
Yeah, inviting them to be here for the next meeting. Under new business, Neshoba quarterly meeting and open houses on the 28th. And it's going to be at the Central Ave location. And it's going to be like a meet and greet for members of the Board of Health, right? Or is it just for chairman? I thought it was members.
I can find out for you.
Yeah, and seeing you're the chair, 28th.
When?
28?
Yeah, and following the meet and greet is going to be the quarterly meeting, which I
still in
believe.
September, right?
Yeah,
September.
anyone can attend the quarterly meeting, but the voting is, each town gets one vote.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, I think if we all wanted to be there to meet the members from the other town, I don't think it makes any difference. Unless they just run out of food before.
Ooh. His food?
I don't know. Meet and greet, I would think you'd at least have water,
Jim usually makes yeah, margarita truck.
Right.
Jim,
I'm in.
I can find out that for you.
So also under Neshoba, Bridget, anything from Neshoba we should be aware of?
The only thing that's been occupying my time is the
The shelter? Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
And I just wanted to say I received from Neshoba last week the list of all the flu clinics that will be in the area. I had Cindy put it on the town's website,
Great.
and it's also outside my office. And there will be a flu clinic at the Ayer Library this fall, and I cannot remember the date.
Cool.
Okay.
and I cannot remember either.
Anything new on COVID vaccinations? Are there new boosters or?
I had a question
Can we get
about
an
that.
old one?
So I have boxes of very, very expired tests, and they haven't updated the expiration dates.
So people have been discarding them.
Okay.
And we do have some with current expiration dates until November. I can bring some over if you want them. But you can have Chuck.
Okay, thank you.
Just get rid of them.
Oh, good. They're taking up room.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
The call log, so
Wait, hey, wait, how about boosters though? Are people going out and getting,
So I think it's the same as it's been if you need a booster and you're.
is there an official schedule or anything that?
I would talk
by
to your
CDC
primary.
or- Okay.
So it all depends on when your last.
This isn't being driven by CDC anymore and,
I mean, I just,
okay.
yeah, I mean, I've kind of just, if you go to your primary.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
they can best direct you, and I heard there might be a new type of vaccine.
there is every time there's going to be a different strain, they'll come out with a different vaccine.
yeah.
But from what I've seen and read, it's for high-risk population. But again, I think your point about talk to your
Yeah,
PCP
okay.
and ask
yeah.
your healthcare provider.
Okay.
The call log part of it. So the interesting part is the way this whole thing came about is Sam got a call from a resident that was being told they had to leave the Neshoba Inn because it was going to be a shelter, and Sam received the call. But other than that happening, we wouldn't know about this. There was no
Yeah.
communication from anybody.
And it's not on the call log because it happened the day after I wrote the call log up.
So why would that person have to leave? Oh, because they didn't meet the criteria? They weren't a homeless person
they're
that had a
taking the
voucher?
whole
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Individual, not
Yeah.
a family. And they weren't in whatever the program is that the state is running. So, so anyhow, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Oh, Bridget, I wanted to make sure the girl, I didn't put her name because it was the TB test. She was looking for information. Did I send her to the right place? I was like, I don't know.
I think the nurses got her.
Okay, good.
So anytime, anything like that, you can just, if you don't, do you have Tamara's direct extension?
I do.
Okay, yep, you can just
Send
send.
her to Tamara.
Any,
Okay.
yep, anything with immunizations or anything like
It
that.
was a very weird question. It's like,
Nope, I get it.
try that.
If she can't help, she is really good about pointing
She
them.
said her mom used to work there too, so she's pretty sure that's where it was all done.
I think it's important for the minutes to reflect, though, that the Board of Health was neither asked or as approved the shelter. It wasn't at our discretion that it's being done. Approval wasn't requested of the Board of Health. I think that the status of the motel hotel license during the period of lease needs to be understood, whether or not there is a valid hotel motel license or it's held in abeyance because it's leased property. Because I think there's issues involving that.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's why I think it's best for council, because
Yep.
that motel license is in the name of the owners who now is leasing it to somebody else. So
yeah.
that's where it just, I think personally, council should.
Absolutely.
Have we suspended licenses before, or is there any kind of precedent for this? Do you?
I don't know if it's, I mean, I think it's, I think the whole thing would need to go to council. It's a separate issue, and I don't know how it works out, but then there's the bylaw with the square footage of space for a room, so I think that
Yeah.
needs to be somewhat.
We need to understand what the emergency
exactly.
declaration means as
Yes,
regards
I
to
think
Right.
that's what they're going to just keep saying for every little thing that people ask questions about. Well, it's a state of emergency,
Yeah.
a state of emergency.
And it sounds like that supersedes. a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
think so. It's just
stuff.
that's
Yeah.
something, again, and I think the big thing is, and I think that's where it's really upsetting and sad that there was no communication from the state on this, because again, it's, the schools are greatly impacted, or can be, and how do you make sure that they have what they need to be able to transition everybody appropriately in a positive way.
I know.
That's the part that,
As of this morning, on that call, we had no idea that MOC was going to have a 24-hour coverage on site. We didn't know any of that,
But that is good to know, because
good.
I
It
felt
sure
like
is.
these gentlemen here tonight, that, they would be responsible for so much more than,
Yeah.
you
You'd have to wonder why, really.
I'm glad that he clarified about the vaccination status for putting the kids in the school, because there's a list of things that
Yeah.
kids have to have
Right.
before they attend school.
right.
You
And
know?
I think that's where, again, being able to provide the best services is,
Yeah.
you have information up front to be able to, and it's for the community too, because you need to be able to answer questions and, make them feel that everything is okay, And there
This
was.
is probably the stupidest question in the world, but I don't have kids, so I've never been through this. How does it work? When you go to, what's the gatekeeper for vaccinations? So when you go to enroll,
So the
new
nurse.
kid in the school, the
nurse.
school
Nurse, yeah.
evaluates.
Yes, and that's where I
Right,
say that,
okay.
communication is really key, because, it's, the superintendent needs to know, do you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
translation
yeah.
services? Do you need, for the nurses,
Right,
how many kids are gonna be coming in? What do they need to do? And it's, our office can, I don't wanna speak for Tamara, but, they can certainly help, but we have to have some idea of what's going on
Yeah.
and what services you want us to provide.
Right, right.
And that's where communication is so important. You can't just show up. It's not fair to anybody.
It sounds like a lot of those details are still TBD.
Yeah, I heard today they just showed up in Westminster, right?
So
Yeah.
I guess my thought is the state knew this was going to happen, and the state says they're inundated, and I'm sure they are. but you can put out emergency communications saying, we don't have the information, but we want you to be aware of. None of that happened. And I think that that's deplorable as it relates to the state government.
Right.
You know, and it goes right back to the top.
Right.
You don't have to,
It's not a good way to
No.
do business.
anyhow, moving on. So the call log, approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance
Yeah, I
to read the
looked at
minutes?
them.
Minutes good?
Yep.
They were very short.
No bills?
Very short.
Qualified sanitarian, damn it.
Motion to accept the minutes?
Motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good.
You know, getting back, this popped in my head when I was looking at the minutes about food trucks and food in general. So, when you were asking about the size of the rooms and how many people in one room, and they're gonna have like a family, the mom, dad, baby, whatever, and then they're having 3 meals a day in these rooms. They're not, I've never been in there, but they're not like little kitchenettes or anything like that.
There might be a few that have a kitchenette, but there's no, I mean, and that was, again, it's all for, you know, I guess a different meeting, but, you know, how do you, you know, the kids need formula and refrigerators and
Yeah.
in addition to the 3 meals, I mean, I know your kid wakes up in the middle of the night and they want a snack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how, there's just so many questions and, you know, again, depending on room size, you know, if you have a family of, let's just say 5, and a couple of them are school-age children, I mean, how do they, you know, you accumulate things. I mean, I'm assuming that people donate things, how do you do homework, where do you go?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of what ifs and I don't know.
I was just thinking the library should be informed. I don't know if they know.
They do.
I'm just thinking about that because the first thought
Yeah.
would be they're all going to go there to study.
I can tell you they're aware.
Oh, I'm sure, but
And they're meeting Thursday nights.
oh, good. Just see. I know how that goes.
Anyhow, is there a motion to adjourn?
No,
No.
I have bills and trade permits.
Okay.
All right. I have the second quarter billing for nursing services and environmental services from the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health. You could
Too
just,
close to the exit door. Yes. You can't see.
Is there a motion to pay the bill in the amount of $10,368.23 for the period of the second billing quarter, which I assume is through, what, September? Or is it through
That, I think
December?
so.
If it's fiscal year, the first quarter would be June through, or July through
July, August,
October.
September.
Oh. It says 10/1 it's due, so it must be for the quarter beginning 10/1.
August, September.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Motion to pay it?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Moved, seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
okay. And then I have a new chicken permit. We have Glenn LaPierre of 9 Lawton Street has 8 chickens and 4 ducks.
Cool.
He got all his information together. Julie has been out, so.
Motion to approve Mr. Lapierre's permit for 9 Lawton Street.
Make a motion to approve?
All those in favor?
Aye.
I didn't get a second.
I'll second. I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Does that bring us
That's the end.
clean with chickens now?
I think so. He's brand new. I will say we now have 23 chicken permits.
Wow. Wow. In the little town of Ayer.
Town of Ayer. We have 23 animal and fowl permits.
Wow.
So
Cool.
which is about the same as what we had last year. We just lost a few and gained a few.
Can we adjourn now?
Now we can adjourn.
Yes.
Is there a motion
I
to
will
adjourn?
move that we adjourn.
Second?
I second it.
Motion made and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.